with another chapter of the book Ask and It Is Given. And today, the chapter that we are going to go over is chapter 14. It is titled Some Things You Knew Before You Arrived. And I have to say, one of the most interesting things about this chapter is the way it is organized, because it is in point form for the first part, which is really, really interesting because it's so different from the other formats. All right, so there were things that we knew before we arrived. Were we supposed to forget them? No. Sorry, there was no conspiracy by source or by the universe to have us forget the things that we knew before we came. There was no such thing. It was not said, and you will go forth and forget everything that you know. None of that. Because if you think about it, the inner being part of us is a part of us that we have complete access to at all times. And that part of us has never forgotten. So all we have to do is to connect with that part of us. Sorry, I had to do that. Okay, that part of us is what we need to learn how to connect with. And when we connect with that part of us, all the information that we were born with is accessible to us again. It's just like we came in through a door and then we had the choice whether to leave that door open or to close it. And for a lot of us, I think 99% of us, to some extent or another, have closed the door. Some of us have still left it a little bit open. And because we've left it a little bit open, we still connect with source and we still receive information from it. But a lot of us have no recollection. And that is because what we did was we closed the door without knowing that we were closing the door. We closed the door without knowing that we were closing the door because we started listening to people who were already here, and we started telling ourselves, in fact, we were told by these people who were already here, mostly our parents, our school teachers, and people on radio, TV, they told us in so many words that they knew better and that you, little one, have to learn the things that we already know because we know better. I know my parents certainly told me that they knew better. But a result of that thinking and that teaching was that we forgot the information that we had come in with. I remember, and maybe you have some clear memories as well, but I have these really clear memories of when I was a child. And one of them I actually wrote about. It was about this red ball. I don't remember the name of the article I wrote, but my parents got me this red ball. And I know that I was not yet 2 years old. And I know that because of where this event happened, and I know what time frame my parents were there. So this is Cambridge, England. And so we were going over, we used to go to this park to play, and I was really excited that day because I had this big red ball. I don't know, it might be a small ball from where I stand now, but at that time it seemed like it was a really nice, shiny, big ball. And I was thrilled because I wanted to play with this ball, and it was the most precious thing I had. It was my new toy, and I was holding on tight to it. Now, when we got to the park, my parents wanted to go over this bridge to the other side. And I think this bridge must have been over a river big enough that there were boats and people were rowing. They were actually competing against each other, is the feeling that I have. And there were boats in this river. So before we started climbing onto this bridge, it was a pedestrian bridge. There were no cars on the bridge. And my mother stopped and she said, "Why don't you give me the ball?" And my parents call me Zara. My family still calls me Zara. So, and that is also a long story how that happened. But my mother said, Zara, give me the ball because you might drop it into the river. And if you drop it, we will not be able to get it back for you. If it falls, it's gone. And it's new and I know you love it, so give it to me. And I said to my mother, no, not giving you my ball. I am absolutely not giving you my ball. I will hold on to it. So then my mother said, okay, be careful. Make sure you don't drop it. And we started going up the bridge. I don't think there were steps. I think it was like a ramp. And as we went up right at the top, when we were right at the top, plop, the ball magically fell out of my grasp and down below. And my mother screamed, see, I told you, you should have given it to me. And I remember I started crying and there was a voice in my head. And the reason I remember this event is because of that voice in my head. The voice in my head said, I'm going to get it back. So I said to my parents, I said, I'm going to get it back. And my parents said, it's gone forever. You're not going to get it. And the voice in my head said, and I have goosebumps now, the voice in my head said, no, I am going to get it back. I know I am going to get it back. And so I got to the other end with my eyes covered like that, I suppose, or like that, I don't remember. Anyway, I got to the other end and my mother was still scolding me and I was not hearing anything that she was saying. It was just going over the top of my head because I was absorbed in my own thoughts, and my thought was, I'm going to get it back. And I was just repeating it again and again. I'm going to get my ball back. I'm going to get my ball back. I want my ball back. We got to the other end and we took a few steps further away from the bridge and someone called from behind. He called my father and he said, excuse me, this is yours. And he was holding up my ball. And I remember, and I'm feeling goosebumps again, I remember the voice in my head said, see, I told you so. I told you I would get my ball back. And I remember that because what that did for me, and I was 2 years old or younger, what that did for me is that it firmly planted in me this belief that my parents are not always right, that things can happen that they don't know about. And I think that is why I was always the rebellious one. I was always the one who tried their patience. I was always the one who experimented and did things and did not share them with my parents, really, because I love them too much to upset them that much. Okay, but what I want to point out to you is that I have this clear memory at age 2 where I remember who I really was. I remembered that there are other possibilities and that I do not have to listen to the older people around me. Do you remember something like that? Because when I read this material, Abraham's material in general, not just this book, but when I started learning from Abraham, I started remembering in my past when I was really young, that when I wanted something, even though other people told me I could not have it, it came in so many ways. And it means that somehow I kept that door open enough that I knew not to completely absorb those beliefs that other people around me had. So with that backdrop of that story, I'm going to go into this material because if we search back, as we read through these things and discuss them, as you search back through your memories, you will find memories that confirm to you that this material that we are reading and understanding today is absolutely true and you knew it, but it was trained out of you. It's not that we forgot it, we still remember it. And the reason that we still remember is the reason why we gravitate towards law of attraction, why we are so attracted to it, because we know in the core of our being, we know that this is true. Okay, so let's go. By always reaching for the feeling of joy or well-being, you would always be moving towards that which you desire. I mean, just notice little babies around us. They laugh for no reason. They have fun for no reason. Little things capture their attention and engage them, and they love it. They love it. I see children skipping along outside my window, and it makes me happy to see their joy. I see them jumping up and down for no reason, and then I hear the parents saying, "Stop it, don't do that. You're misbehaving." And I then am reminded of my mother, who always used to sit me down if we were going somewhere. My beautiful mother, who I absolutely love and adore and loved a lot, used to sit us down, me and my brother, and give us a long lecture about appropriateness and how other people saw us and what we should do to make sure that other people were happy with us, right? And so that trained us out of what we really wanted to do. And now when I go out to a restaurant or something and I see a child who's just having so much fun, and then the parents are saying, "Don't do that. Sit down, behave yourself, stop fiddling." And I think to myself, oh my goodness, that is not my place to say anything, but that's how I got trained out of it. So now I know, and you know as well. So then Abraham says, in the process of moving towards your desire, you would experience joy. And yes, when we wanted something, even if that was food, if we were hungry, or to go out and play, when we moved towards that thing that we wanted, how happy were you? How happy were you when you were told that it was okay to go out and play? Oh my God, I was so thrilled, right? Cartoons, looking forward to that. Looking forward to that and knowing that it is going to come. Knowing that I am going to go out and play, knowing that I'm going to watch those cartoons or TV programs, knowing that it used to make me happy. Remember the days when you used to jump out of bed? Not lethargically put one foot down and then the other one. No, do you remember jumping out of bed? I remember jumping out of bed. I still jump out of bed. But there was a time in between when I did not know law of attraction, when I used to drag myself out of bed. And that has changed for me, and I want that to change for everybody. All right. In this earth plane environment, you would have sufficient leeway to mold your vibration into a pleasing position for the attraction of a wonderful life experience. All right. So very wordy. And that's why we are doing this study that we are doing, because we want to talk about these things in present day language. In this earth plane environment, you would have sufficient leeway. So what that means is that in every moment of time, we have the power to decide how we want to think our thoughts. And the way we think our thoughts is the molding of the clay that Abraham talks about. That is the molding of the clay. We would mold our thoughts into pleasing life experiences, right? That's the fun. Oh, that's happening. I want it to be different from that. So what can I think about now that's going to help me create something different from that in the future? It's almost like playing a game, right? Okay, so then next, well-being abounds, so you felt no risk or concern about the contrasting environment into which you were moving. We were not scared being born. No one was scared being born because we had that bird's eye view. We knew what was going on planet Earth, and we wanted to be here. Because remember, and in some past chapter, we discussed this. And what we discussed was that Source has this overarching view, which is general. And the reason we are the leading edge of creation is because we are the ones who get specific. And so we knew that we have the choice how we want to become specific, because we have decision-making power and we can decide whatever we want, have, be, or do anything at all. And the other thing that's important is the word well-being abounds. Well-being abounds, and there is abundance in nature, right? So all we had to do, because nature is one of our guides. If we ever have a question, we can get the answer of it from looking at nature. And when I started discovering this, when I got into this self-discovery mode, I remember going to Camp Samak, which is a beautiful forest close to where I live. I used to go there often, and I noticed that the salmon used to swim upstream and then they would die, right? And it made sense to me what Abraham said about swimming upstream or swimming downstream with the current. If you look at trees, I absolutely love and adore trees, but they teach us so many things. They lose all their leaves, they lose everything, and then they start from scratch. And when they start from scratch, guess what happens? They grow bigger and taller and fuller. And isn't that a lesson to us that we can lose everything and get it all back? How wonderful is that? Nature is full of answers. And look at all the prophets that get talked about, all the learned people that get talked about, all the wise men that get, and women that get talked about. They all went away into nature. They all went into seclusion, into nature, to discover their true nature and their true well-being. All right, variety would help you to choose your specific life. I think we've already covered that. Your work was to direct your thoughts, and that in doing so your life would unfold. So our work always is to direct our thoughts. Remember the 6 thinking choices. How am I going to think about what is happening just now? Or how am I going to think about what I want to have happen in the future? 6 thinking choices. Past negative, past positive. Now negative, now positive. Future negative, future positive. Those are the only 6 choices. And if we just stop to take our breath in the moment, that taking a breath is enough time for us to consciously say, ooh, what am I thinking just now? No. Need to flip to the positive side, and then do that. Flip to the positive side. You are an internal extension of source energy, and that basis of that which you are is good. There is no source of evil. We are good, and the way to become unconditional towards everyone and everything is to look at those people that you or anyone else thinks are inappropriate, and find a way to love them. Love them the way Source loves them. Become unconditional, because you know that at the core of that person is good. At their core, everyone is good. And I think I learned this lesson most of all from my maternal grandfather, who used to find good in everyone. Murderers, thieves, criminals of all sorts, and he would find something good about them. And he would teach us that. And my mother remembered that and always used to talk about him in those terms when he was gone. But I think that taught me that everyone is the same. And I remember at the age of 10, my parents, my father was working in Iran. We lived in Tehran for a couple of years. And somebody asked me when I went back home to Pakistan, somebody asked me, so how was that? How were they different? How were those people different? And I said to them, and I remember this very well because it made me think, how were they different? And I said, my answer was, people are the same everywhere. They are exactly like us. There is no difference, because people's hopes and dreams are the same. Everyone wants to be loved and to love. Everyone wants abundance and money to be able to fulfill all their desires, and everyone wants the freedom to do things their own way. Everyone wants these things. Freedom, growth, and joy is what Abraham says, and I totally buy into that philosophy. Okay. You would be able to easily allow the well-being of your origin and of your source to steadily flow through you. So that means connecting. In the last chapter, we did that exercise to just breathe and connect with our inner being. And that's all it takes. I find that a lot of people on the internet unknowingly make it way more complicated than it has to be for other people to understand law of attraction. And the commercialization of law of attraction has a lot to do with it. Anyway, everyone finds someone that will take them to the next step. The point is that it's not at all complicated. It is, in fact, easy, because all you have to do is breathe and allow yourself to calm down. And when you do that, you are directly plugged in to the energy of Source, and you are in that moment able to receive whatever it is that you want to receive from there. You could never get far from your Source, and that you could never completely pinch yourself off from it. So no matter how far someone is down on the emotional scale, let's say that someone is a criminal who is regarded as a criminal, who has committed whatever crimes and is now incarcerated, they don't feel good about that. In fact, I think that most criminal activity comes from the basis of the fact that they want well-being so much that they act because nobody's taught them how to go up the emotional scale, and they don't know how to do it, but they want it so badly. And all of addiction comes from there as well, because addiction is a shortcut that gives you respite so that you can go up the emotional scale for a little while. Another discussion from there. Anyway, you would experience immediate emotions to help you understand the direction of your thought, and that your emotions would instantly tell you if you were in any moment moving towards or away what you desired. So we have this really good mechanism that was supposed to guide us always towards our well-being. But guess what? We were taught to stop using it. Because no matter what your voice inside you said, your parents told you, do as I tell you, ignore that voice. And by ignoring that voice and ignoring it again and again and again, eventually we forget it. Eventually we forgot that voice and we stopped listening to it. And that is why you and I, we're all gathered here tonight. Okay. You would know by the way you were feeling moment by moment how much you were allowing your connection to your stream of well-being. And so you came forth into this earth experience with eager anticipation of a wonderful life. Eager anticipation of a wonderful life because we had guidance. Think of it as jumping into from a boat into a sea where you're going underwater diving, but you know that you're tethered to the boat up there. You have this rope that is always connecting you, and you can always go back, and that boat up there can always guide you. And so that connection can become smaller and further away, but it never goes away. As long as we are breathing, we are connected. Our breath is our connection. Okay, and so you also knew that there would not be an immediate manifestation of any thought, so that you would have ample opportunity to mold, evaluate, decide, and enjoy the creative process. And that time that it takes for us to refine our preferences is what Abraham calls the buffer of time. What is the buffer of time? Let's say that I give birth to a desire that I want a cover for my cell phone. Well, what sort of cover? Because there's so many different types out there. So now I'm sifting and sorting. I'm on Amazon, for lack of another provider, and going through all these pictures and colors and designs and materials, and I'm putting my preferences into the vortex. But what if the minute I said I want a phone cover and one popped up right there? Here it is. This is your phone cover. You asked for it. Now deal with it. How would that feel? Not very good, right? I tell you, relationships and everything else works that way. People say, I want a relationship. And what would happen if the minute you said, I want a relationship, someone appeared, a voice from above said, here's this person and deal with it for the rest of your life. Thank God and the universe and source that we have the opportunity to go out with this one and talk to this one and, decide, oh, I like this about this one and this about this one, and you're putting that all into the vortex. What goes wrong is we look at these things that we don't like and we tell ourselves, oh, the one that I want does not exist. Does not exist. But you see, here's the problem. If you put out the fact that the one that you want does not exist, whether it's a job or a lover, then they don't exist, because you cannot say that and attract them, because now you're focusing on the absence of it. Universe, and it's somewhere here, Abraham says that, there it is. The law of attraction always yields to you the essence of the balance of your thoughts. The essence of the balance. What does that mean? Balance. Where is your balance? On the having of it or the not having of it? The essence of the balance of your thought. Where's my little beautiful stick? Oh, here it is. So the balance is simply, if this is a seesaw and this is not having and this is having, which way is the balance going to swing? Which way are you putting more weight? Are you thinking mostly about having or mostly about not having? Whichever way the seesaw swings, that's what manifests, right? So it's giving you the essence of the balance of your thought, and that's it. And that's why if you just change the way you think your thoughts, everything will change. All right. So next then Abraham talks about, but I can't get to San Diego from Phoenix. And what that means is we keep going zigzag, zigzag, zigzag in our thoughts and we don't realize it. And I usually use this example of javelin throw, because that was a sport that I engaged in way back when I was in college. And what javelin throw is, you have this spear. It's a nice weight, but it's comfortable enough that you can run with it. You pick up the spear and then you're supposed to run with it and then throw it so that it lands onto a target. That's javelin throw. I believe it's an Olympic sport. And so I know from doing that sport that you have to run in a straight line with your eyes on the target. If you waver where you're looking, you do not get your target. And you have to add momentum to your run in order to throw that javelin so that it lands where you want it to land. If you stumble and fall, you have to go back and start all over again. If you go zigzag, if you don't run in a straight line, you cannot throw that javelin because there's no momentum. And I call this thought mapping, and I teach thought mapping in the course, the Heart and Mind Alignment course. This is the workbook for the course, and there's a whole section in this. In fact, our module 1 is all about thought mapping. And the way thought mapping works is people go negative without knowing it. I'll give you a simple example of my daughter. My daughter and her best friend in high school were having a discussion about their exams. And her friend said, I have this exam tomorrow. I hope I don't fail. And I didn't want to interfere. I was just listening to the two of them talk, and I was thinking, oh, sweetheart, what you really should say is, I have this exam tomorrow. I hope I pass. Right? There's a subtle difference, but how many times do we do that? Right? I have this lovely girl that I coach who tells me that she goes out on parties, but there are no nice guys there, and she's looking for a relationship. But I've never found anyone. They're all taken. What is this? Her actual desire is wanting a relationship, but she's always talking about how there aren't any. Right? People on the apps, all they want is to go to bed with you. She's always talking about this side and never about this side. So it's all about appreciation. You can't get to San Diego from Phoenix if you keep going forward and then back, and then forward and then back. You have to go in a straight line towards what you want. That's how. And Abraham says, as long as you are moving in the direction of what you want, eventually you will get there. It doesn't matter. As long as you're moving in that direction. So I was talking about a straight line, but sometimes a straight line is not possible because we've got obstacles. And what an obstacle does is, that's when it takes too long. That's when we say things like, where is it? Why isn't it happening? Well, it's not happening right away because there's a bigger buffer of time when you have negative beliefs that get in your way. All right. Oh, that's it. See, I'm sorry, guys. I didn't notice that we've covered everything. Right on time. It's 8:30. All right, folks. I hope that you found that useful. And if you did, leave me a comment because I like hearing from you. And I'll see you again tomorrow with the next chapter. Take care, enjoy your evening, and have a fabulous rest of the day. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.